just how safe is Kevin Stefanski and Andrew Berry's jobs? A win over the Ravens definitely gave everyone a big sigh of relief in Berea. But sitting at 2-6, the fun of that win is going to wash away quickly if they don't start stacking on more wins. So I want to discuss this because Albert Breer, a notable NFL insider, was talking about this on some sports talk radio, and here's what he had to say. I don't have any reason to believe either of those guys are in trouble. Jimmy Haslam and the ownership group really have wanted the model that they have right now for a long time. This is why I don't think that either one of these guys are in serious danger of losing their jobs. Haslam here has what he has wanted to have, and that is stability at the head coach and a lot of success under these two guys. And ultimately, I think everyone from Haslam to DePodesta to Berry, and who really knows just how involved Stefanski is on these things here, or if he's kind of just a little bit of a puppet. But ultimately, I think this is the path that they want to go down, which is an analytically driven team. And they believe over time they are going to come out on top because that's what analytics tell you, right? If you do something with a big enough sample size, you are going to get your desired result if it is more probable than not. But let's start by kind of unpacking Kevin Stefanski, and then we'll look at Andrew Berry in terms of their job security. For Stefanski, I'll just say it, he's a proven head coach. I know that it has not always been perfect, and when he gave up play calling, this Browns offense was kicking butt, and in one weird, twisted way, maybe we can almost praise Stefanski for giving up play calling because it was a sign of, hey, this is for the betterment of the team, and that was evident on Sunday. So I almost want to say give him credit for acknowledging that, even though it's probably a little bit too late, too little too late. But Stefanski and his resume have shown us that the guy is a qualified NFL head coach. I mean, he's got 2 playoff appearances and 1 playoff win for a franchise that had 1 playoff appearance total before he took the job going back to 1999. I mean, I'll just say it. This is the Browns we're talking about, a team that has not had much success at all for several decades. It's the factory of sadness. And the owner has a head coach who has taken them to the playoffs twice and won a playoff game on the road in Pittsburgh of all places. Yeah, I don't think Jimmy Haslam is going to look at his entire body of work and decide one bad season is going to outweigh all the good here. Let's fire this guy. I don't think Kevin Stefanski is going anywhere after this year unless they don't win another game and the locker room implodes and Haslam has no choice because this team is completely unraveled and has no direction, which we have no indication to believe any of that because when things couldn't be worse and the Browns lose the starting quarterback and some may argue, addition by subtraction there, this team stuck together and they knocked off the hottest team in the National Football League, the 5-in-a-row Ravens with the number 1, number 2 offense at the time. So, for me, I think Stefanski right there showed that even when shit hits the fan, he has shown to be a resilient coach and they can bounce back. Plus, the guy has won how many games with 10 different starting quarterbacks? Yeah, I think he has shown a thing or two about staying cool and calm under pressure and still getting the best out of his players. Is he a top 5 coach in the National Football League? No. I don't think Stefanski is. Is he a bottom 10 coach? Hell no. I think the Browns are happy to have a good coach. Also, there are so many understandable times in Stefanski's head coaching career where we could have accepted failure. When the Browns went down to their 4th starting quarterback last year, they brought Joe Flacco in off the couch. Would anyone have blamed Stefanski if the Browns did not make the playoffs that year? No. It would have been very easy for all of us to go, man, too many injuries. They lost Nick Chubb, they lost Watson, they lost so many guys. Can't blame Stefanski for that. They still made the playoffs, right? There have been so many instances where we all could have gone, that's not Stefanski's fault, but the team responded well. They bounced back and they continued to win. So that to me right there shows a ton of evidence that Stefanski is a good coach that keeps his locker room in control and in the right place of mind no matter what's going on outside. So with a 2-6 start to the year, do you still believe in Kevin Stefanski? I do. I know this is a little bit of a week-to-week thing, and hey, I think that's okay, right? That's sports. Sports is supposed to be entertaining. The sports to be fun. Sports is fluid. If you don't like that, you're in the wrong industry. But for right now, I am still believing in Stefanski. As for Andrew Berry, he is going to be known and defined as his trade for Deshaun Watson. Which, hey, it was a monster trade. It's the biggest trade in franchise history. It was the biggest contract at the time in NFL history. I mean, $230 million guaranteed. But unfortunately for Barry, this is going to be something where one mistake is going to outshine 9 good moves he made, right? He got Amari Cooper for a 5th-round draft pick. He brought in Zadarius Smith. He built an awesome roster. The best, most talented roster we have ever seen. And even with 4 or 5 different starting quarterbacks last year, there was enough talent on that team to still get them to 11 wins. Andrew Barry constructed 21 great starters on this team. Some better than others, but you get the point. But he made one mistake, and that was the Deshaun Watson trade. And I think that this entire trade was completely fueled by numbers, analytics. The Browns are the most analytically driven and savvy team in the NFL. And they saw a player that had 3 Pro Bowls, an excellent resume up until all the allegations, and they put the human side up to the side, and they just went off of what Pro Football Reference said. And they looked at the numbers. And unfortunately for Barry, riding with analytics in that spot hurt them because a human element kicked in. And that was Deshaun Watson was not going to probably have the same level of maybe trust or love in the locker room, although the players still continue to really rally around him. And we saw that after Watson got injured. But aside from that, I do think there is just some level of, as unbelievable and unrealistic as it sounds, maybe football karma. And a lot of teams stayed away from Watson for probably that same reason. But the Browns saw a football player with really good stats. And they are, and always have been, motivated by numbers. And I think that's why Andrew Barry is going to be the GM after this year still. Because Paul DePodesta and this ownership group and Jimmy Haslam, they are all 100% bought in on the analytics. The Browns are riding with the approach of we are going to make decisions based on the numbers. I mean, they got the Moneyball guy here. And when I think about this, a movie that I recently watched comes to mind, and it's got Bryan Cranston in it. It's a good movie. It's called Jerry and Marge Go Large. And if you don't know the movie, it's about a retired, accountant, someone who just didn't really make a ton of money and has a decent money saved up and good with numbers and noticed a loophole in the lottery and went and bet a good chunk of change on the lottery and was shocked when he didn't win money. He did the math. The math was right. There was a loophole, and he exploited it. And Jerry realized his issue was he didn't have a large enough sample size. And now I'm kind of spoiling it a little bit, but not too much. It's kind of in the preview still. So he learned, okay, well, we have to get a bigger sample size. Meaning I have to bet more because if you flip a coin 1,000 times, it's going to be nearly 50% heads, 50% tails. If you flip a coin 10 times, it might be 7-3 because your sample size isn't large enough. So the point I want to make here is I think the Browns believe in what they have in Barry and Stefanski and DePodesta because they are in on the analytics. They just need a larger sample size. And in this case, the sample size is more moves. And this was not the wrong move. It's just it was the wrong move. But in their eyes, it was the process is not wrong. It's just that we unfortunately hit an unexpected speed bump because usually the house wins, but sometimes it doesn't win. And in this case, the analytics kind of backfired on the Browns. I know that might have been a little bit choppy, but if you stuck with me, I think the point that I'm trying to make here is the Browns are in on Barry and Stefanski because they are in on this analytically driven process, and the analytics say majority of the time this is going to work, but that's just majority. So just because it doesn't work one time doesn't mean you have to completely abandon ship on it because the other 9 times out of 10, it will work. In the Browns' mind, they just found that 1 time out of 10 it didn't work. And that's why they're not going to completely tear down this process. Guys, we know Cleveland is built different, and so are their fans. And for those fans, there's only one way to protect their gutters. That is Leaf Filter. Leaf Filter has been protecting gutters in Northeast Ohio for nearly 20 years. As the official gutter guard of the Cleveland Browns, Leaf Filter has a limited time offer for Browns fans. Up to 32% off your entire qualified purchase and 2 free official Browns jerseys at leaffilter.com/report. An investment in Leaf Filter is an investment engineered to protect your whole home. Clogged gutters aren't just a nuisance, they can cause extensive water damage, and do-it-yourself and store-bought solutions may be cheaper upfront, but can cost you more in the long run. Schedule your free inspection now, and for a limited time, get up to 32% off your entire qualified purchase and 2 free Browns jerseys at leaffilter.com/report. That's a free inspection, up to 32% off, and 2 free Browns jerseys with a qualified purchase at leaffilter.com/report. Offer valid on a first-come, first-served basis while supplies last. Full terms and conditions can be found at leaffilter.com/report. See representatives for warranty details. I put all that information in the comments and description of today's video. A much-needed piece of relieving news the Browns have been searching for, and that is Dawand Jones might be a capable starting left tackle in the National Football League. So put the Barry and Stefanski banter behind us here for the second half of the video, because Jameis Winston was talking about Dawand Jones and saying he can and probably will be one of the best offensive tackles the NFL has seen. Now, we know Jameis has a way with words, and he likes to maybe be a little overzealous at times, but no, I do think there is some truth to Dawand Jones showed us enough hope and glimpse in his first start at left tackle over the Ravens that it's worth experimenting more. And I feel like this could actually be a really good asset for the Browns long term. And that is, if Dawand Jones can show that he can play left tackle, that gives the Browns so much more flexibility in the upcoming 2025 NFL draft. Because the first mock draft I did had the Browns going Will Campbell, left tackle out of LSU. But if they come out of this year with Dawand Jones playing rock solid at left tackle, well, now they may not feel like they have to reach for a tackle if a tackle is not at the top of their big board, and they can go out and get best player available or another position of need, right? We still have 8 weeks left of the season. If they want to get a wide receiver, but they're like, we value tackle more than receiver, so unfortunately we got to wait for round 2 for receiver. Now they can go get that guy out of Arizona in round 1 if that's what they wanted to do all along, but they decided to go with tackle because that was what's best for this team in terms of biggest need. Dawand Jones, I mean, he has not had a good year up until, I think, that Ravens game. And I don't understand what happened. I mean, I kind of understand, and we'll look at it in a moment. But, I mean, the fall off from what was a really promising rookie year to, I mean, look at the snaps he's played from 2023 to 2024. Almost, 50% fewer, 40% fewer snaps. And despite that, 4 more penalties, an extra sack, only 2 less pressures allowed, and his PFF overall is plummeted. So, what's the big difference from last year to this year? I think it's his weight. I mean, I can't fat shame, but if you're skinny, fat shame for me. Because Dawand Jones, going back to the NFL Combine, came in at 374 pounds. He was always a big fella at Ohio State, and there were some concerns going into the draft about keeping his weight under control. The rumored weight from Jason Lloyd is 415 pounds. I mean, we're talking about an extra 40 pounds, pretty much, getting tossed on there. That's a lot of extra baggage to carry when you have to keep up with those very, very fast and quick feet defensive ends. So maybe Dawand Jones just got his weight under control over the last couple of weeks, and he went down from 415 to 395, 400, lost 15, 20 pounds. So he's not quite as slow to some of these first step edge rushers. That's all I can somewhat, attribute his recent success to. Otherwise, it's just he was a no-show for the first half of the season. Maybe it's because of his knee injury from last year, although he was pretty healthy to open up training camp, unlike Conklin and Wills. So if all goes well, this could be your starting offensive line next year. Put Jones at left tackle, keep Bitonio, keep Posick, probably move on from Teller just from a money standpoint and him coming off a knee injury this year. And you've got Zach Zinter, who's got some experience, although it wasn't great for him, but he's a rookie. He'll learn. That comes with time, reps, and experience. And maybe you even keep Jack Conklin because there's not a whole lot of savings to be had by moving on from Conklin. So if he continues to play well, why create an extra issue for you by moving on from him? Just keep him at right tackle. And you can still use an early draft pick on an offensive lineman. Let them develop for a year because Andy Dickerson's not developing anyone. That's one of the worst offensive lines we've seen for the first half of the year. Wouldn't happen under Bill Callahan, but that could really be a huge stress reliever for you in 2025 during the draft. All right, before we sign off, I want to go back to an oldie but a goodie. Name a random Browns player. No Bakers, no Bernie Kosars, no Nick Chubbs. I don't want to see any A-tier names, any notable names. I want to go deep. I want to cut deep. Give me a Travis Benjamin, right? Give me an Isaiah Crowell. Give me a random Browns player. All right, before we sign off, make sure to follow us over on Instagram, by the way, Browns Report IG. If you're looking for more Browns content on other platforms, we post our content over there as well, along with different content. So Browns Report IG, check us out on Instagram.